one of my experiences in the Army was being in charge of the Army's imagery interpretation for scientific and technical intelligence during the Cold War. I measured pieces of Soviet equipment from photographs. It was my job. I look at the hole in the Pentagon, and I look at the size of an airplane that was supposed to have hit the Pentagon, and I said, the plane does not fit in that hole. So what did hit the Pentagon? What hit it? Where is it? What's going on?
Quote, at a bare minimum, this confirmation by Norman Mineta is in gross contradiction to the 9/11 Commission report and poses serious questions about the Vice President's role in ordering NORAD to stand down on 9/11. Mineta confirmed his statements with reporters saying, quote, when I overheard something about the orders still stand, and so what I thought of was that they had already made the decision to shoot something down. Norman Mineta made it clear to reporters, who verified his quotes in written text alongside him, that Mineta was indeed talking about a stand-down order, not to shoot down hijacked aircraft headed for the Pentagon. After no shoot-down took place, it became clear that Cheney intended to keep NORAD fighters jets from responding, evidence that Cheney is guilty of treason, not negligence for allowing the Pentagon to be hit. End quote. Aaron Dykes.
The North American Aerospace Defense Command is charged with defending North America's airspace. On the morning of September 11, 2001, Vice President Dick Cheney was in control of NORAD. This was the first time in U.S. history that a president or vice president was in direct control of the military agency. NORAD was founded in 1957, and generals always had the power to shoot down or intercept hijacked aircraft. But on June 1st, 2001, just 3 months before 9/11, Dick Cheney ordered Donald Rumsfeld to allow him to take control of NORAD itself and the shoot-down procedure, and remove that power from the generals so they could do nothing. Here is a copy of the memorandum from Rumsfeld to the Joint Chiefs, telling them they no longer have any authority. An Associated Press article in August of 2002 reported that the CIA just so happened to be running a drill on the morning of 9/11 of flying jets in the World Trade Center and Pentagon. Then senior FAA officials ordered air traffic controllers to shred the tapes from 9/11 in violation of federal law. AP learned of the drills because at a Homeland Security function after 9/11, they bragged about it. Oh, we had foresight. We were running drills that very morning. Then USA Today reported that drills held weeks before 9/11 included targets that were the Pentagon and World Trade Center. Biggest holes in their argument is the fact that they never heard of a plan to fly hijacked jets into landmarks on the East Coast.
We're going to take a closer look tonight at another example of where, despite the conventional wisdom, there were people in the United States who actually were preparing to defend against the kind of attacks which occurred here on 9/11. The North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD for short, has been defending the skies over the U.S. and Canada for almost 50 years, 46 to be precise. USA Today reports that in the 2 years before the attacks on September the 11th, NORAD conducted exercises using hijacked airliners as weapons. And one target was the World Trade Center.
We knew he hated us. But there was nobody in our government, at least, and I don't think the prior government, that could envision flying airplanes into buildings on such a massive scale.
But that turns out not to be true. U.S. military planners did envision and practice those very scenarios. As reported by USA Today, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, conducted exercises with fighter jets. simulating hijacked planes flown into the World Trade Center in the 2 years before the attacks.
And so then I saw Condoleezza Rice get up on TV and say, we had never thought, we had never heard. Why, that's a ridiculous conspiracy theory to say that.
Pentagon planners also envisioned the attack on the Pentagon 5 months before it happened.
The Pentagon had a drill in November of 2000 simulating a hijacked jet being flown to the Pentagon. So between all the drills before 9/11 and the drill on the morning of 9/11, air traffic controllers thought that it was a simulation.
There was another drill, Vigilant Guardian, which was a hijack exercise, a command post exercise, but it involved the insertion of false radar blips onto radar screens in the Northeast Air Defense Sector. In addition, we have a confirmation, thanks to General Richard Myers, who was acting chairman of the Joint Chiefs, who told Richard Clark, as reported in Clark's book, that there was another exercise, Vigilant Warrior, which was, in fact, according to a NORAD source, a live-fly hijack drill being conducted at the same time. With only 8 available fighter aircraft, and they have to be dispatched in pairs, they were dealing with as many as 22 possible hijacks on the day of 9/11, and they couldn't separate the war game exercises from the actual hijacks.
But this was done deliberately, though.
Apparently so, and I will be saying that in my forthcoming book, Crossing the Rubicon, 9/11 and the Decline of American Empire at the End of the Age of Oil. We have done an extensive investigation on that to show that these war game exercises were apparently very well planned by someone who I will show, I believe, was Dick Cheney in the United States government, to deliberately confuse FAA, NORAD, and U.S. Air Force fighter response to fulfill a prophecy that another man had once said, let one happen and stop the rest.
On that very point, we have a recording.
Hi, Boston Center Team U. We have a problem here. We have a hijacked aircraft headed towards New York. We need someone to scramble some F-16s or something up there to help us out.
Is this real world or exercise?
No, this is not an exercise, not a test.
Now, the 9/11 Commission didn't mention the war games, is that right?
No, in their final report they did mention, I think in one paragraph, Vigilant Guardian, but the response given by NORAD Commanding General Ralph Eberhart and other Air Force spokespeople was absolutely nonsensical, and it made no mention of any of the other war game exercises. Eberhart's position was, in fact, which is a very ludicrous position, that the Vigilant Guardian exercise, leaving aside the others, actually helped speed response on 9/11, and that is absolutely not the case.
How does this relate to the 9/11 Commission report, which says that planes had gone in the wrong directions?
Well, that's a separate issue, and that remains to be clarified. But what I will be disclosing in my book, in effect, is that there were 2 simultaneously operating command and control systems functioning on the day of 9/11, and at sometimes they were issuing conflicting orders. We do not have a clear explanation for why fighters from Andrews Air Force Base were sent out over the sea first and couldn't turn around, because the 9/11 Commission seemed to change all the evidence just arbitrarily right before it issued its final report. So we don't have a clear explanation, but certainly there was this all consistent with a motive that said make sure that the fighters don't get to any place in time to stop the 3 critical attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon.
I would have to see evidence to believe that any of the terrorists housed at Guantanamo and other rendition facilities ever had anything to do with the stand-down of the American military or setting the explosives inside of World Trade Center buildings 1, 2, or 7. I doubt whether or not they had any real connections to the real terrorists inside of our own government. We may never know, because of the nature and secrecy surrounding the military tribunal system. We do know, however, from able danger, that the real terrorists were protected and enabled, and that the Taliban and Al-Qaeda networks that we consider as terrorist organizations were created by the CIA and protected as an intelligence asset.
The commissioners have ties to the very parties they are investigating, like the CIA, banking, and financial interests, and Bush administration officials. For example, Philip Zelikow wrote a book with Condoleezza Rice. Zelikow was also one of the primary authors of NSS 2002. Vice Chairman Lee Hamilton said, quote, "We're not interested in trying to assess blame. We do not consider that a part of the Commission's responsibility." Dr. David Ray Griffin, author of The New Pearl Harbor and Christian Faith and the Truth Behind 9/11, mentions the revisionism and fallacies of the report in his book, The 9/11 Commission Report, Omissions and Distortions.
I do not feel it was even correct. I feel it was lies.
It did not address reports of alleged hijackers being still alive today.
You backtrack every one of those that were on that panel. They were friends of the upper in Washington. They all had jobs or previous jobs or still have jobs connected with somebody in the government. No, that is not, that's conflict of interest.